it comes down to value. The minute that I stop conveying how much I value who she is, it will be the minute that I'll take for granted what she is.
Welcome to the Grace Marriage Podcast. I'm Brad Rhodes.
And I'm Marilyn Rhodes. We're here to help you build a marriage that's stronger, more connected, and full of grace.
I'm Rick Dayton, joining Brad and Marilyn as we bring you weekly conversations designed to inspire and equip you to live intentionally in your marriage.
We'll share practical tips, powerful stories, and strategies to help you and your spouse grow closer and thrive together.
So whether you're just starting out or have been married for years, there's always room to grow. Let's do this together. This is the Grace Marriage Podcast.
This is Brad Rhodes and the Grace Marriage Podcast, and I'm privileged today to have a very good friend, a relative, a lead pastor. I mean, literally, one of my favorite people, Chuck Allen. Chuck, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Brad. It is really good to be with you. It's good to see you, actually.
Yeah, this is going to be a little different than most of our episodes because every time I'm with Chuck or I'm at Chuck's church, I learn new things that help me do life better and help me enjoy life more. So my hope, Chuck, is some of the things that you've imparted to me by example, we impart to our listeners.
Okay, well, let's give it a shot.
So I remember my first time I went down and preached at Sugar Hill Church. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Sugar Hill Church real quick before we get started?
So Sugar Hill Church is in the northeast suburbs of Atlanta, and suburbs in Atlanta could be anything 100 miles from Atlanta. And this church is 145 years old, but we kind of replanted it about 14 years ago. And we are, I think the best way to describe us is super community centric. And I've been introduced to our local chamber as an anti-pastor pastor. That probably sums it all up.
Now, what's an anti-pastor pastor?
Well, one, I'm still not sure how much I like pastors because I don't hang out with them much. I kind of fit better in the business community area. And I kind of live by this theology. It's like love Jesus and don't be a jerk. And you do the right things for the right reason at the right time and good things happen.
Well, and I got to experience that when I came down there the first time to preach and lead a marriage conference. And when I got there, Chuck had somebody there to take my stuff out of my car. I mean, super generous, super excellent. I don't travel a whole lot to speak, but I told Chuck, Sugar Hill's the exception. If y'all ever want me there, you just tell me when.
Well, I can't be ready till Sunday.
That's good. But I mean, I remember you telling me you have two of your principles are generosity and excellence.
Yeah.
Tell me about that and kind of where that came through and how you practice generosity and excellence as a church.
So there really are. We have several rules that kind of became rules. We stumbled into most of them, but one of them that we have proven to be true, Brad, is that if you'll introduce your people to opportunities to give, you're not robbing anybody from giving to your church. You're literally giving them an opportunity to expand their kingdom perspective. So what we've learned is, if people give directly through Sugar Hill Church to a partner like Grace Marriage or Meals on Wheels or whatever the partner is, and we've got right now about 32 partners, but when they give directly to those ministries over the coming year, 4 times whatever they gave them will come back to you because you've broadened their kingdom perspective. And then the second thing is, this is fascinating to me. Most people, they really don't want recognition, but they do want to thank you. And they want an explanation of what their kingdom investment did. So if you'll say thank you, and if you'll say, this is what you did for the kingdom over the past 30 days, 2 things happen. One, they're just overwhelmed with God's goodness in their life. And secondly, they want to be part of more.
Yeah, and one thing too, Chuck, I noticed when I was there, and you've been out a long time, so you probably haven't always been there. It seems like you feel real free in ministry, just to kind of do whatever you feel led at the moment without really feeling constrained by what people think.
Yeah, I maybe that's the anti-pastor thing, Brad. I'm not sure. I will say that this church, I am spoiled rotten. I genuinely love this place. I love my team. I love these people. I love this community. the amount of freedom that this church offers us to make decisions on how we partner and how we do kingdom work is so fluid. But a lot of that's because we tell our people everything. I finish every meeting other than a worship service by saying to anybody and everybody, ask me anything about anything. And Brad, back in the day, they would ask for an hour and they would ask everything. If somebody wanted to know how much money I made, I told them. If they want to know what I thought about same sex marriage or they want to know what I thought about anything, I would just answer. And you know what I discovered? Now that people know that I'll answer the question, nobody really asks anything. It's odd how that happens.
Well, I remember last time I was there, if I recall correctly, I got to watch you dance in front of about 1,000 people.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, not only am I the anti-pastor, I'm the guy that dances that cannot dance, and yet it has not stopped me yet.
Well, it all depends on your definition of cannot dance. Because my definition of dance is just if you dance. Then you were jumping anyway.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I am the very definition of the fact that old white fat preachers can't really jump. I mean, I can clear about a quarter of an inch right now.
Well, but the reason I bring that up is a lot of pastors and a lot of people, not just pastors, but in life, in ministry, in work, they're really bound up by what other people think of them.
That's a death sentence.
When now you say that's a death sentence, why do you say that's a death sentence?
You know, I cut my teeth in church work, Brad, in Southern Baptist megachurch world, where if you were on staff, not only did you have to look the part, you had to act the part. And the part was you're pretty doggone close to perfect and you do all the things the right way and you never approach authenticity. Um, I would say about 10 years ago, I went through this crash and burn phase in ministry where it was just like, I can't do that. And I had a counselor that helped me hugely by saying, Chuck, you've got two things missing in your life. You're missing radical freedom, and you're missing the joy of peace because you're bound up by trying to make sure you think everybody likes you, approves of you, and you're killing it. And when I worked my way through not caring if I was ever pastoring the biggest church or if anybody ever knew who I was, or if I never had my name on a book, or I was never on some preaching conference, if the only pat on the back I ever got again was the Spirit of God saying, "Attaboy, could I live in freedom?" And it was a brutal season, but on the other side of it, I got to tell you, Brad, there's nothing quite like not having to give a rip if people think you've got your junk together. And the more authentic you can be in convincing to people that you don't, it's fascinating the relationships that come out of that. It's just the most refreshing thing in the world.
It's like Paul said, if I'm still trying to please man, I'm not a servant of Christ.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, you cannot sustain that. I don't care who you are. You're waiting to crash and burn if that's the case.
Yeah. How do you get freedom from it? Because I mean, to some degree, everybody's worried about what other people think of them, or kind of they have some self. What's the pathway out of the shackles of self consciousness?
Hmm. Well, if I knew it, I'd write a really good book about it. The old rock and roller Jimi Hendrix.
Not personally, but I've heard of him.
Yeah. So Jimi Hendrix said some version of this. He said, if we would ever stop trying to seek more power, we could actually find greater freedom. And when I started releasing what I thought I was responsible for, one, to the Spirit of God, but two, to other people around me, and I started discovering that, wait a minute, that I actually got more leadership kudos from giving my role away than I ever did in trying to succeed in my role. It's very weird how the kingdom of God has this weird economy. It is cash, credit, and control. Cash, who pays for it, credit, who gets it, and control, who has it. And when you can surrender all three, you can find a lot of freedom. And it took me probably twice crashing and burning and trying to figure out how could I sustain this. I think I told you one time, Brad, a therapist looked at me and said, Chuck, you keep trying to make people believe the problem is the pastorate. The problem is the pastor I'm looking at. I was like, ouch. But he was right.
Yeah, I found that, my experience in pastors that do what you're saying, the congregation adjusts and then they come to appreciate it. So a lot of times the shackles that people perceive they're living under are more driven by tradition and self-imposed than real. Is that fair or is that overstated?
I think it's more than fair. If I rarely speak to pastor groups, primarily because I really don't know what I say. I don't really. I'm not one of those guys that has a 1 through 5 formula, and if you do this, it works. I mean, I stumbled into what the Lord's done here, but I did this about 3 years ago, and I had this young guy who stood up and said, "So, what do you think? What do you think's been the key to the success and growth at Sugar Hill?" And I said it, and I didn't really think about it until afterward, but I do think it's true. I said, when you leave room for the Spirit of God to do what only He can do, and you bring a radical dose of authenticity and you let those two collide, really cool things happen in the local body of Christ.
Hmm. Yeah, and I found, one thing, like when I've come to you and Jenny's house and come to your church, there's two things. I feel loved and I have a lot of fun.
Fun is part of it.
Oh, it's so it people don't realize how magnetic it is when you love people well, and then when you bring them fun. It's like I was drawn to you from the start because when I was around you, I had fun, and I felt like you and Jenny truly loved me.
Don't you think of all the places we go in the country, of all the things we spend our money and time on, the one place you ought to go, and A, it should be easy, and B, it should be fun, is church. Because if it is, then the church stops being a noun and becomes a verb, and it's something that we go do, not something we attend.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's like, it's not fun because the church entertains you.
Right. Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun for a different reason because if you love God, you gain pleasure from Him, and He delights in you, and it's a refreshing environment where you feel loved. And so, yeah, that's that's
Right. I
powerful.
mean, let's face it, that happens when, if you're a worshiper that keeps your hands in your pockets and you're cool in the room of people waving their arms, then you're in a pretty fun place where freedom happens, but you can bring all your authentic weirdness and be cool.
Yeah. And I guess we're going to kind of transition to marriage a little bit. I find that spouses that when their wife's around them, that the wife really feels loved and cherished and adored. Those are great marriages. When it feels like it's more heavy, like you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that, wish you were different, I wish you were more of this. It feels like more of an oppressive relationship that spouses aren't drawn to.
Absolutely.
So in your like evolution, how have you become, like, for Jenny, somebody when Jenny's around you, she feels loved and adored by you, and it brings fun to her life?
For me, Brad, it comes down to value. It's like the minute that I stop conveying how much I value who she is, it will be the minute that I'll take for granted what she is. And for me, it's like I want Jenny to feel wildly valued. What's weird is that it's like the more I learn to value her, the easier it is to extend grace, to extend a kindness, or even just simple things like we still say thank you and please, and I mean we're sappy, man, But I will tell you, she's one of the funniest humans I've ever been around, and she doesn't even mean to be. It's because we laugh a lot.
Well, and I just watched, so the freedom you guys have in your relationship, both of you give yourself a lot of freedom. Jenny gives Chuck the freedom to be Chuck. I mean, I just watched it, and you give Jenny the freedom to be Jenny, and it's really neat to watch. It's like Chuck is a little bit of a serial hobbyist. Is that a fair statement?
That's more than fair.
So last time I go to Chuck's, so you give me 50 guesses as to what's Chuck's most recent hobby. Golf cart restoration would not have been on the list. So I get there. When I get there and I sit down, I hear like a knock on the door, and Chuck's like, "Oh my goodness, that could be my new steering wheel." And Chuck's jumping up, running to the door. But Chuck's right now, you are into restoring golf carts, and
Yeah.
actually, you've got them. They go pretty. Like, how fast does your golf cart go now?
So I have 3 golf carts. All of them will do max 41 miles an hour, but typically they're around 37, 38 miles an hour. Yeah.
Didn't you get pulled over by policemen speeding in a golf cart?
I did. I live in this little city called Norcross, Georgia, and the local police pulled me over because there's a 25 zone and I'm on a golf cart.
And
I mean,
how fast are you going?
well, at the time I was doing 41.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of downhill. So, I mean, I was really cooking. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, the thing is, in marriage, when people feel this fully known, fully accepted, fully loved, without any pressure to be something they aren't, marriages tend to thrive more when the marriages are more inhibiting. And I've had to learn because, like, Marilyn, I mean, she's a good crazy. I mean, like, there's this big wedding in Louisville, and they're friends of our family. Mary goes, "Hey, I'll do all your flowers
Right.
for the reception, for the bridesmaid, for the
Who
bride."
does that?
Nobody. So literally, she goes up, buys $1,000. Of course, they paid for the flowers. $1,000 at Trader Joe flowers. Spends 30 straight hours, Thursday through Sunday, and it's the most beautiful wedding you've ever seen. And she gets
Yeah.
in the car and she goes, "How'd it look?" I said, "It was beautiful, and you're absolutely crazy."
Yeah.
I said, "Who does that?" Mary goes, "Oh, I had a
Yeah.
blast." But what if I take the approach? No, Marilyn, that's bad for you. That's a bad thing. You don't need to be spending
Right.
3 days of your time. We have kids. We have this. You can't tell the Highlands you're going to do that.
Yeah.
It creates more of an oppressive atmosphere.
I mean, Jenny runs a ministry that feeds 65,000 meals to homebound senior adults every year. And she, I mean, but it gives her such great joy. It's just fun to watch her. It's super cool to watch her thrive, being authentically, perfectly, wondrously her. I mean, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it feels like when I'm with you and Jenny, it's not a pressurized relationship. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel like you put any pressure on Jenny or Jenny puts any pressure on you. You just enjoy each other. Is that a fair statement?
When we got married, Brad, I wasn't in a pastorate. So she came into my life as a businessman and then later as a pastor's wife. And this will give you a glimpse into Jenny's life. We're sitting with the pastor search team and they're talking with her. And she looks up at the leader and she says, "If you don't mind me asking, what are your expectations of me as a pastor's wife?" And he looks at her and says, I don't know that we really have any. And Jenny, without missing a beat, looked back at the whole team and said, "I can meet and exceed that."
That's really good.
You know?
Well, and it's it feels like both you and Jenny feel relatively free of the pressures of church. Like you feel free to it seems like you feel free to act as you feel led by God, not as what like normal pastors do or what normal congregations expect of their pastor.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But if I could bottle this one thing, this is what I would bottle for any couple. I would bottle this one thing. Um, Plan your life together weekly so that you each have a voice in each other's schedule in life. And the results of that are that their priorities bleed over into yours and theirs. And it just happens. It's not, we don't have to, it's not an exhausting conversation. It's 15 minutes and it just becomes something we laugh about. Like
Yeah.
it's on the regular. Jenny would say, "What in the world are you meeting with them about?"
Yeah.
And then I describe it and she's like, "Oh yeah, that's probably a good thing."
Yeah. And Marilyn felt like when I went to the wedding, there's nobody more impressed with her than me.
Yeah.
I didn't drive up thinking I spent the last 3 days without her, and she chose. I drove up there and said, "What about Marilyn?" I said, "She's the most talented. She's a beast." That's what I said. She's a
Yeah.
beast. There's nobody
Jenny
else.
functions in total beast mode.
Yeah, that's the way I feel. That's why, and when Jenny knows you view her that way, and Marilyn knows I view her that way, it helps
Yeah.
Jenny and Marilyn a ton. And I know, and Marilyn knows the worst about me. I mean, and nobody thinks higher of Brad Rhodes than Marilyn Rhodes. And that's one of the cool things about marriage.
I think that's the greatest thing, to be honest with you. I mean, to know, and this is super cool, Brad. I say this to our men's group all the time. Find me a guy that I want to hang out with That guy is repetitively in private saying great things about his bride.
Hmm.
I mean, you find me a guy who's bragging on his wife. I'll show you a guy that guy knows what it's like to be a good friend, and that's a guy to follow. The coolest thing is to know that Jenny today, we haven't seen each other since 7 o'clock this morning. And I can guarantee wherever she's at, she's been my biggest cheerleader and my biggest fan today. And I'll promise you that's true for me. And we don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
That is really fun.
And right now, Chuck, you and I are both in pretty good spots. We're enjoying ministry. We're enjoying life. We've got a pretty positive outlook. But that's not always the case. I mean, I had a few years ago where, man, I was almost crippled with anxiety. I was just like, man, I was barely functioning, But the thing was, Marilyn wouldn't go anywhere, and Marilyn loved me and adored me just as much. When literally I was, the kids joke and they say, "Who's more scared of COVID, Dad or Dr. Fauci?" you know, so because I got like, if you want to, the book I could write, Chuck, is How to Handle COVID Poorly.
Yeah. So the book, I think if I really got honest, the book I would write is this: why you should never give up on your spouse because they never gave up on you. That'd be mine, because I think I've given Jenny 100 reasons to walk away, and for whatever reason, man, God has just given her this ability to see past all of my bluster and foolishness and love me at my very lowest, including suicidal, thinking, like just being so low and walking on the edge of depression, and her now having the ability after these years to look at me and say, she calls me A. She say, "Hey, I see you're headed down that path. Let's stop and talk. Clear your calendar this morning. We need to chat." And because she knows it and sees it, rather than it bringing anxiety into the relationship, and because we openly talk about it, it's just made my life just, I mean, I don't want to use words like just sweeter, but just stinking awesome, you
Well,
know?
because like right now, Chuck, you're a successful pastor. Your church is growing. Things are going well. But when things were going poorly financially, you were depressed, you were suicidal, you're all those things. Jenny was still there for you. And a large reason you're so fruitful today is because that's been the case. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If anybody ever wanted to look at marriage and say, like with Grace Marriage, you guys spend a lot of energy helping us see the relationship of a husband and wife in the way of Christ and the church, but you do it in such a plain spoken way that even guys like me can get it. But when I needed her most, she was there. And what's even cooler is that in seasons like right now, when things are just cranking well, she's still there, and she's the same human. It's not like there's no quid pro quo that comes with the deal. We marriage becomes a 200% thing with us. If I've only got 60, she will bring 140.
And I remember like when, I was in counseling with anxiety and wasn't doing very well at all. Just getting through a work day was hard. I'd get up
Oh,
a
yeah.
short. I mean, I was almost convinced there's something wrong with me physically. Then I'd wonder if it's mental, and I'd walk around the block and I'd be short of breath. And but it was just, but the neat thing was I never felt looked down on.
Right.
I never
Right.
felt like she goes, I never felt like, man, I've got the most pathetic husband.
Yeah.
And
Well, I've
she,
been there. Yeah.
yeah. And
Like
it's so,
Jenny was,
it's,
one night we're sitting there, and because I'm a good whiner. I'm so good at it. And there's a knock on the door, and I really am. I mean, Brad, I'm just like, oh, you've got to be kidding! What fool is knocking on my door? I go to the door, open it up, and believe it or not, it's my MD, it's my doctor, and I'm like, what in the world is a Jewish guy named Einstein? Open the door, and he said, "Hey, let's chat." So he just points to my rocking chairs on the front porch. He says, "Let's sit down." And I said, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "Well, Jenny called me, and she's concerned about you, and she thought you just needed to have somebody that you just come clean with about everything regarding your physical health. How are we doing?" And I walked in, and I had two choices. I could be like, "Come on, Jen, you should have given me a heads up," or I chose to go the other route and think, wow, she loved me enough to actually call this guy who's a friend and an MD who would sit down and chat with me. And from that day on, I thought to myself, I married my best friend.
Yeah.
I married the person that makes the call. I mean, it's like this girl's going to walk me home.
Yeah. And one thing we haven't really brought up on the podcast so far, Jenny's my first cousin.
Yeah.
And so like I knew Jenny long before you did, Chuck.
Yeah. But the funniest thing is we show up at your parents' house and I've never met them. And your mom comes out and hugs Jenny. She says, "My Jenny," and then before I know it, she's hugging me. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm part of the family now. And from that moment on, it was like your parents have been dear friends.
Oh, whatever you did, I don't know how you did it. My parents are like, they love Chuck.
Well, first of all, your parents are incredible human beings. They really are. One,
amen.
they're incredibly bright people, and they're really fun. Your dad's one of the funniest people I've ever been around.
Oh yeah, they're fun. They're talented. Nobody has more impressive, loving, supportive parents than I've had. So you're right. But Chuck, can we we're running out of time. But man, I love you. I love Sugar Hill. Love Jenny. Love your family. Wish I lived closer to Norcross, Georgia. So Chuck, thanks for being on the podcast. Chuck's point too, just for our listeners, is hang in there. You're going to have points where you're down, you're up, you're rocking it, life's crushing you, till death do us part, good times and in bad. It's more than just vows. It's something to live out. And we bear so much more fruit for the gospel because we stick with one another than chucking one another aside, no pun intended.
Hey, I do have to tell while you're doing this, Brad, I did have one story that I just thought about because my assistant reminded me, said, make sure you tell Brad about this. So I got this couple, they're 3 years younger than me. So they're 62 and 61 years old. And I saw them yesterday and in my office, and I had seen them probably 2 months ago, and they literally are contemplating divorce. They came to your workshop here on a Sunday evening, and they started in our Grace Marriage group working their way through the journal, and they brought their journals into the office, and they couldn't wait to share with me some of what they've learned about each other. Can I just tell you something? They're not only they're going to make it, they're going to wind up leading that group someday. They're killing it.
That's awesome. Well, that's makes me happy, because that's what, we want marriage to thrive and God to get glory through it. And Chuck, thanks for being on the podcast, and thanks for your friendship.
Thank you. My joy.
Thank you for joining us on the Grace Marriage Podcast. We really hope you're feeling inspired to take intentional steps to grow in your marriage.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us spread the message of grace and reach even more couples.
And if you have a moment, please leave us a review. Your feedback means a lot to us and helps others discover the podcast.
To learn more about how you can grow in your marriage, visit us at gracemarriage.com. Keep building stronger, grace-filled marriages.
We'll see you next week on the Grace Marriage Podcast. Until then, keep growing in grace.